That's what.
All right, shalom. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Shalom, Israel. This is the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge coming out of 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yohana. This is the Wednesday law class. And today we're going to be going over to show how disgusting Thanksgiving is and why you shouldn't celebrate it. We already know why we shouldn't celebrate it, but we're going to go ahead and go over it anyway and touch more on it because our people are still going to celebrate it. And it's absolutely disgusting. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is answer any questions. If any brothers online watching, if you have any questions on the scriptures, go ahead and type in your questions in the comment section, and so we can get those questions out the way before we get into this topic, before we get into Thanksgiving. All right. All right. No questions yet. Type in your questions whenever you want. I'm gonna go ahead and continue on the topic. All right. So we're gonna read out of this book. This book is called The 10 Tribes of Israel, or the True History of the North American Indians. Or the true history of the North American Indians, showing that they are the descendants of these 10 tribes. All right, so this is the book right here. Here's how the book looks. You can get this from Amazon. There's a lot of great info in here showing that the North American Indians are of the 10 tribes of Israel. It's written by Timothy R. Jenkins. All right, so we're going to go to page 76. And it reads, a writer who was present at a dinner given by General Knox to a number of Indians in the year 1786 at New York says, they had come to the president on a mission from their nations. The house was on Broadway. A little before dinner, 2 or 3 of the Shashims, with their chief or principal man, went into the balcony at the front of the house, the drawing room being upstairs. From this they had a view of the city. They returned into the room, apparently dejected. So these Native Americans went to a dinner, and a man named General Knox, an oppressor, he was given a speech. All right, and they heard the speech, and they went into a room where they were having this assembly, and they looked out into the city to see the city on the land that was once theirs. And when they came back from that balcony, they were dejected, meaning they were upset. They were stressed out. But the chief, more than the rest, General Knox, took notice of it and said to him, brother, what has happened to you? You look sorry. Is there anything to distress you? He answered, I'll tell you, brother, I have been looking at the beautiful city, the great water, your fine country. Okay, we got a question. The sister said, Salakia, sir, is it wrong if our family has a food like pumpkin pie to eat some the day before? Salakia, sir, is it wrong if our family has a food like pumpkin pie to eat some the day before or after Thanksgiving? Is it out of the spirit? Okay, well you have to understand, you got to look at the situation. Are they buying the pumpkin pie because they're just buying it to eat it, or are they buying the pumpkin pie because of Thanksgiving? If they're buying the pie because of Thanksgiving, then you shouldn't eat the pumpkin pie. All right? You shouldn't eat the pumpkin pie. But now if they're buying, like once again, like I just said, if they're just buying the pumpkin pie like any other day, if they just don't care, it's just pumpkin pie, they're eating it like it doesn't mean anything, then you can go ahead and eat it. But now if they're eating it in the spirit of Thanksgiving, then you shouldn't eat it. You understand? it would be wrong if you ate the pumpkin pie and they're eating it because they're in the spirit of Thanksgiving. You understand? So that's the answer to that. All right. All right. So we continue. We're going to go ahead and continue with the book and see how happy. Okay. So I'll start back from the sentence I just read. I have been looking at the beautiful city, the great water, your fine country, and see how happy you all are. But then, but then I could not help thinking that this fine country and this great water was once ours. Our ancestors lived here. They enjoyed it as their own in peace. It was the gift of the Great Spirit to them and their children. What is he saying? He's saying this land that you came and stole from us was once our land, and it was given to us by the Great Spirit. Who is the Great Spirit that they're referring to? The God, the power or the Most High spoken of in the Bible. They just had a different name for it. They called him the Great Spirit. At at last, the white people came here in a great canoe. So now he's going to give a backdrop of what happened when the oppressors or the invaders, colonizers, whatever you want to call them, when they came to our land. He's going to give a breakdown, a brief. He's going to summarize what happened and how they came here and stayed here and eventually took over this country through rape, rob, and murder and deceit. At the last, white people came here in a great canoe. They asked only to let them tie it to a tree, lest the water should carry it away. We consented. They said some of their people were sick and they asked permission to land them and put them under the shade of the trees. The ice then came and they could not get away. They then began a piece of land to build. They then begged a piece of land to build wigwams for the winter. We granted it to them. Then they asked for some corn to keep them from starving. We kindly furnished it to them. They promised to go away when the ice was gone. When this happened, we told them that they must now go away with their big canoe. But they pointed to their big guns. But they pointed to their big guns around their wigwams and said they would stay there. And we could not make them go away. Afterwards, more came. They brought they brought spirituous and intoxicating liquors with them, of which the Indians became very fond. They persuaded us to sell them some land. Finally they drove us back from time to time into the wilderness, far from the water and the fish and the oysters. They have destroyed the game. Our people have wasted away, and now we live miserable and wretched. While you are enjoying our fine and beautiful country, this makes me sorry, brother, and I cannot help it. You understand? So that's what happened when the so-called oppressor came here. And this example, what this brother said, it's still happening today with gentrification. You understand? They come into the neighborhoods, and then what happens? You start to get kicked out of the neighborhood because they start raising the rent. They start raising the rent in your neighborhood of your apartment when your apartment is garbage. There's roaches in your apartment. The sink is broken. The toilet doesn't work. There's defects in the apartment, and you can't understand why they're raising the rent. If they can't if the maintenance people don't even come to your house when they say they will to fix it. You understand? But this is happening. Why? Because the oppressor has not changed. He's still using the same tactics to oppress us. You understand? This was the first step of gentrification. They came here, they lied to us, and then when we told them it's time for them to go, they used violence. They used violence against us. And that's inside the Bible. And I'm gonna show you and we're gonna go into a precept to show that this spirit that our oppressor has was prophesied in the Bible. The Most High prophesies his character. You understand? Let me get it real quick. All right, so we're going to go to Psalms 55 and 21. One second. All right. We're going to go to Psalms 55 and 21. The book of Psalms, chapter 55 and verse 21. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. And that's exactly what happened when the oppressor came here. What did he tell the Native Americans? He told us, please just let us tie our boat to this tree. Because if we don't tie this boat to this tree, our boat is going to go away. And the Native Americans said, okay, tie your boat to the tree. And then what did they say? They were speaking words smoother than butter. You understand? The words that they were speaking were softer than oil, meaning they were kind words. They were words like what? I'm devastated. I need help. I need you to help me. You understand? And that's what they did. But in actuality, behind those words that they were speaking, behind those words of help and help me, and I need your help. We need your help. What was behind those words? Yet were they drawn swords. You understand? And that's exactly what happened when the Native Americans said, "All right, now it's time for you to leave. Now you have to go." And what did they do? They pointed to the guns and said, "We're not going anywhere." And then what did they do? They murdered the Native Americans, American Indians, innocently. Murdered innocent people who did nothing but help them in their time of need, in their time of help. Right? And that's why Thanksgiving is disgusting. That's why you shouldn't celebrate Thanksgiving. All right? Now let's go. Now we're going to read, go ahead and now we're going to go to this other page, page 143. All right, we're going to go to page 143 in this same book. All right. And it reads, of those who had an opportunity of judging from the appearance and conduct of the Indians at first discovery of America, as well as of some who have seen them since in a state of nature. So this is a report from people who were among the Indians and were able to give a judgment on them, on their appearance and on their conduct, right? So we're going to keep reading. And first, that of Spanish authors. So the people who wrote this were Spanish authors. They were Spaniards. And here proper allowance must be made for the prevailing intentions of the first Spanish visitors in their coming to America, which, with some few exceptions, were principally from the most covetous desires of amassing wealth and obtaining immense riches at all risk and by every means. Meaning the main reason why they came to the Americas was to what? Was to get rich by any means. To get rich by any means and to become rich at all risk. You understand? Also, it must be remembered how few concerned themselves about the religious state of the natives. So when they came here, they weren't really looking at the Native Americans, analyzing their culture, analyzing what they believe in and their beliefs. They were here to get rich, to make money, and to do whatever they had to do. So if they had to murder, they were going to murder. If they were going to murder children, murder families, burn down villages, that's what they were going to do. If they could but get their property, neither did they give themselves any trouble to know their history, their origin, customs, or future expectations. But their gold, their silver, their land, and their furs were the whole object of their attention. So that's what they were gravitated to. Their wealth, their furs, their gold, that's what they wanted. They didn't care about them at all. All right? And our oppressor has always been this way. He doesn't care about people. He doesn't care about he doesn't have morals. He's always been like that, and he's still like that today. You can look at what he's doing to the so-called Mexicans, to the so-called Guatemalans, the so-called Salvadorians at the border. He doesn't care about those people. You understand? But guess what? We're working in the restaurants. We are the ones picking the fruits that they eat on their table, that they eat in their $10 million mansions, that they eat in their up-class restaurants. The restaurants wouldn't be nothing without cranberries, without carrots, without lettuce. Without that, restaurants wouldn't be able to run. They would be out of stock. The companies that bring the food to the restaurants, they get that from the Mexicans who are picking the fruits in the field. But yet, they allow our children to die in the cages. They have our children locked in cages. You understand? Why? Because they don't care about God's chosen people. All they care about is getting rich off of God's people. All they care about is the money. And they've been like that since day one. We thank God that there were some favorable exceptions. The learned world is, by this time, pretty well acquainted with the degree of confidence that ought to be paid to the Spanish historians in general. Further than their accounts are confirmed and supported by other historians of character. Few of them converse with the natives in such a manner as to gain their confidence or obtain any intimate knowledge of their manners and customs. Once again, they didn't speak to the natives, they didn't conversate with them to learn their culture, who they were, how they live, what they think, their perspective. They didn't do any of that with any tolerable degree of certainty. They did not treat them as friends, but as the most inveterate enemies, and despised, hated, and murdered them. So that's what they did. They came to this land. They didn't care about anything. All they wanted was money, wealth, and riches. And they didn't treat us like people. They treated us like their enemies without cause. And they murdered us. They blatantly murdered us in horrific ways, in terrible ways, ways that you would never want to be murdered. You understand? The things that they did was absolutely disgusting. It was immoral, and they're gonna pay for it without remorse or compunction in return for their kindness and respect. So we the brothers on this land, we gave them respect. We gave them kindness. We helped them. And they didn't care. They murdered us with no remorse. And to excuse their own ignorance and to cast a mantle over their most shocking, barbarous, cruel, and predominant idolatrous, I'll read that again, Salakia. And to excuse their own ignorance and to cast a mantle over their most shocking, barbarous, cruel, and predominant murders, they artfully describe them as an abominable swarm of idolatrous cannibals, offering human sacrifices to their false deities and eating their unfortunate victims. So what did they do to cover up the disgusting murders and crimes against us, innocent people who were only kind to them, who respected them? They lied about us. And what did they say? They said that we were what? That They said that we were an abominable swarm of idolatrous cannibals. That we were idolatrous cannibals. That we ate each other, offering human sacrifice to their false deities and eating their unfortunate victims. So they were saying that we were eating people, that we were sacrificing people to gods. And that's what they say about the Aztecs. They say that the Aztecs would sacrifice people to the sun god and this and that. Here it's telling you that's a lie. That was something that was made up by the oppressor to make us look like we were evil. And like and to make it seem as if we deserved the treatment that they gave us, that we received from them. You understand? Now we're going to go ahead and read page 144. We're going to read from page 144 now. The Spanish writer says that when Cortez approached Mexico, Cortez was a conquistador, right? He's the one who took over the Aztec Empire. The Spanish writers say that when Cortez approached Mexico, Montezuma shut himself up and continued for the space of 8 days in prayer and fasting. But to blacken him and excuse their own diabolical conduct, they assert that he offered human sacrifices at the same time to abominable and frightful idols. So the Spaniards, this conquistador Cortez, when he came to Montezuma and he saw them, he made up a lie to make the so-called Mexicans seem as if we were evil. He said what? He said that we are diabolical, that we have a diabolical conduct, and that we are abominable, and that we would sacrifice to frightful idols. These prayers and fastings were doubtless the same as the northern Indians, who, on particular occasions, seek to sanctify themselves and regain the favor of the deity. So the point that I was bringing out is that what? Is that the Spaniards came here and that they lied about our conduct. They lied and said that we were murderers, that we were savages, when in reality we were none of those things. All we were was kind and respectful to them, and we helped them. But they lied about us. And those very same lies are the ones that we believe. You understand? That's what we believe when it's an absolute lie. And we're going to get that in the Bible too, that the oppressor is an absolute liar. All right? We're going to go to Psalms 58 and 3. All right? Psalms 58 and 3. The wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. And that's our oppressor. You understand? From the womb, he's estranged, meaning what? He's wicked from the womb. The so-called oppressor, he's wicked from the womb, and he's still wicked today. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. And that's exactly what these oppressors were doing. They were speaking lies so that they can look to other people, to people today who go into the history as good people, as they did what was right, because the people who they enslaved and murdered were actually cannibals. They were people who had no conduct. They were savages. When that's a lie. The real savages were the Europeans, were the Caucasians, the Spaniards, the Germans. You understand? They were the real savages. They were the real wicked ones. All right? So we're going to go ahead and pull some precepts. We're going to go into the scriptures and show you that according to the Most High God, he does not want you to celebrate Thanksgiving. The Most High hates Thanksgiving. All right? So the first precept we're going to get, one second. Let me pull it up real quick. All right, so the first precept that we're going to pull is Amos 5 and 21. We're going to go to Amos 5 and 21. All right. The book of Amos, chapter 5 and verse 21. I despise your feast days, and will not smell in your solemn assemblies. Verse 22. Though ye offer me burnt offerings and your meat offerings, I will not accept them, neither will I regard the peace offerings of your fat beasts. Verse 23. Take thou away from me the noise of thy songs, for I will not hear the melody of thy vows. So what is he saying? What is the Most High saying? He's saying in verse 21, I despise your feast days. The Most High hates these feast days that we celebrate. Why does he hate them? Because they're your feast days. These are our feast days. These are the days that we decide to celebrate. Thanksgiving, Christmas, what other feast days? You understand? Your birthday, and also Valentine's Day, Halloween, any holiday that America has, the Most High hates it, and he doesn't want you to celebrate them. Now, it's not hard to understand why you shouldn't celebrate Thanksgiving. You understand? It's not hard to go into the Google and find out why Thanksgiving is so evil and so wicked, and why you shouldn't celebrate it. And the Most High hates it. He doesn't want you to celebrate Thanksgiving. It's a sin against the Most High if you celebrate Thanksgiving, and it's also a spit in the face to your mother, to your father, to your brothers in the reservations of American Indians. You understand? If you claim to be any type of proud Mexican, if you're proud of your raza, if you're proud to be Latino, if you're proud to be Native, you understand? If you have some integrity about who you are, about your people, and you celebrate Thanksgiving, then you're not really about what you say you're about. You're a hypocrite. You understand? You're a hypocrite. If you hate gun violence, if you hate when the police shoots down a black man, if you hate what's happening to our brothers and sisters at the border, and you celebrate Thanksgiving, then you really don't hate what's happening to our brothers and sisters at the border. You don't care about the children at the border. You don't care about the people who died in the desert traveling to get to America, who died because they had no water. You don't care about your people. Why? Because if you did, you would care about what already happened to your people. You understand? You would care about what happened to them in 1492 when Christopher Columbus arrived to the Americas. Because what they are doing, what they did then, they're still doing it today. You understand? So you're a hypocrite if you still celebrate Thanksgiving, if you say that you love your people. Now let's go to 1 Corinthians 8 and 1. All right, we're going to go to 1 Corinthians 8 and 1. All right. The book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 8 and verse 1. Now as touching things offered unto idols, we know that we all have knowledge. Knowledge puffeth up, but charity edifieth. And if any man think that he knoweth anything, he knoweth nothing as he ought to know. But if any man love God, the same is known of him. As concerning therefore the eating of those things that are offered in sacrifice unto idols, in this case it would be what? That Thanksgiving turkey. That Thanksgiving turkey is being offered to white supremacy. You understand? You're eating that turkey, and the idol is what? Our oppressor. You're eating that turkey in celebration of the murder of your own people. We know that an idol is nothing in the world, and that there is none other God but one. Meaning Meaning we know that there's only one power in heaven. You understand? We know that the oppressor isn't our God. We know that our God is the God of the Bible. Verse 5, for though there be that are called gods, whether in heaven or in earth, as there be gods many and lords many, but to us there is but one, the Father, of whom are all things, and we in him, and one Lord Jesus Christ, by whom are all things, and we by him. Salaki. I'm gonna pull a different precept. That precept is a little bit too long. I don't want to go into it that much. I'm gonna go ahead and go to Jeremiah 10 and 1. All right. The book of Jeremiah, chapter 10 and verse 1. The book of Jeremiah, chapter 10 and verse 1. Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. You understand? The Lord isn't speaking to everybody. He's only speaking to one specific nation, and that's the nation of Israel. Verse 2. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. Meaning what? Don't follow the ways of the heathen. Meaning don't follow their customs. Don't do what the oppressor does. Don't do what every Chinese, what every African, what every East Indian, whatever every Muslim is going to do on Thanksgiving, which is what? They're going to celebrate Thanksgiving. Muslims celebrate Thanksgiving as well, believe it or not. Muslims celebrate Thanksgiving. They say that it pleases Allah because it's bringing people together and all that garbage. When that's a lie, man. You understand? That's a straight lie. The Most High told us not to follow the ways of the heathen. Now we're going to go to Job 20 and 19. The book of Job, chapter 20 and verse 19. Because he hath oppressed and hath forsaken the poor, because he hath violently taken away an house which he builded not. Verse 20. Surely he shall not feel quietness in his belly. He shall not save of that which he desired. Meaning what? Verse 19 is saying what? It's talking about the so-called oppressor. It's talking about the Caucasian man, the people in power today, the people who are oppressing us today in this kingdom. I'll read it again. Job, verse 20 and 19. Because he hath oppressed and hath forsaken the poor, because he hath violently taken away an house which he builded not. And that house was America. He violently took America away from the so-called Native Americans, from the so-called Latinos. He violently took away this land from us. And this was prophesied in the Bible. Now we're going to go to Psalms 55 and 20. All right? Book of Psalms, chapter 55 and verse 20. The book of Psalms, chapter 55 and verse 20. He hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant. You understand? And then once again, this is talking about the oppressor. That's exactly what he did when he came to this land. What did he do? You understand? He put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. We just read out of this book that the Native Americans of this land, they did nothing but help the so-called Europeans, the so-called immigrants. They did nothing but help these immigrants. They were kind to these immigrants. They showed respect to these immigrants, right? And what happened? They violated the natives of this land. They violated us, right? How? Because their words were smoother than butter. Because they were subtle. They were subtle. They were great. They're good liars. And behind the words that they fooled us with, what did they do? They murdered us. You understand? And why did that happen? Because we didn't have the Most High on our side. That's why that happened. You understand? We just read that the Native Americans were eating oysters. You understand? They said that the oppressors pushed them away from the waters and away from the oysters. Why? Because they were eating unlawful food. You understand? If they weren't eating unlawful food, then they were doing things that was against the Most High. That's the point I'm trying to make. Now, he's not sure if they were eating the lobsters. They mentioned lobsters, but they could have probably been making necklaces with those lobsters. So Salakia. But the point is, the reason why the oppressor was able to prevail against us was because we weren't serving the Most High as we should. All right. He had broken his covenants. And how many covenants did he make with the American Indians? He made tons of covenants, and he broke every last one of them. You understand? So in the Bible, it talks about the oppressor. It prophesies about him and what he would do when he was to come to this land of ours, to this land that the Most High gave us for a time. You understand? Now, real quick, I wanna make sure y'all get this, man. Captain Katazai just came out with a book. It's called Issachar, Son of Jacob. You can get it on Amazon for $19.99. You can get it on Kindle or you can order it. I strongly suggest, if you're a so-called a Mexican, if you're a Latino, if you're unsure whether or not the Latinos are Israelites, you want to get that book. You want to get that book so that you can see that we are the Israelites. You understand that we are actually, in reality, the Israelites inside of the Bible. So that way you can finally wake up and come back to your identity and get in class. Get in class and wake up. You understand? So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go a little bit into that book. I'm gonna just bring out about 2 pages, right? Just to show to the brothers watching, to the sisters watching, that the so-called Mexicans are of the 12 tribes of Israel. All right, but first, I'm gonna go ahead and read something out of the Apocrypha. And what I'm gonna read out of the Apocrypha is going to match up with what I'm gonna read out of Captain Katazai's book. Also, a side note, Captain Katazai also has a lecture, a 12 tribes lecture. You can go on YouTube, go to Cross the Line Radio, and Cross the Line Radio 12 tribes lecture. The video will pop up. That's like a 2-hour lecture, and he's giving the breakdown to every tribe, and he's also proving that the Latinos in North, Central, and South America are the biblical Israelites. He's proving it through history, through artifacts, through archaeology, which is the same way he's proving it in that book. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and read out of the Apocrypha. We're going to go into the Apocrypha. The Apocrypha looks like this. All right. You want to buy one of these, and you want to buy a King James Version. Now, if you buy the King James Version 1611, it comes with the Apocrypha inside the Bible. All right, but you want to make sure you get you an Apocrypha. So what we're going to do, we're going to read a scripture out of the Apocrypha. Let me see. Give me a second. All right. So I'm going to read, in this book, it actually has a part in the Apocrypha in here. So I'm going to read the Apocrypha verse out of this book. All right, we're going to go to page 1. The following is taken from the Apocrypha, 2nd Esdras, chapter 14 and verse 40 through 45, to show when the 10 tribes left the eastern country to... One second. All right, so we're going to continue reading from the Apocrypha. I'll read it again from the top. The following is taken from the Apocrypha, 2nd Esdras, chapter 14 and verse 40 through 45, to show when the 10 tribes left the eastern country to come to a land not inhabited by man. These are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king. Hosea was an Israelite king, but he was a wicked king, and that's why they were taken into captivity, whom Salmanassar, the king of Assyria, led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land. But they took counsel amongst themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. You understand? So what is it saying here? It's saying that the 10 tribes of Israel, they were led captives by Salmanassar, an Assyrian king. And when the 10 tribes got to Assyria, they took counsel amongst themselves. They came together and they had a council. And the counsel was that they would leave the multitude of the heathen, that they would leave this place where they are being held captives, and they would go to a land where no man has ever dwelt. All right? Let's keep reading. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half. And the same region is called Ashereth. Now the writer of this book, he's going to make a comment. He's going to make a statement about what was just read out of the Apocrypha. Now, what are we to learn from the foregoing history? First, we are taught that they understood the geography of the country and the distance they must travel in order to get to this land where no man dwelt. And second, that there was no country in the east but what was more or less inhabited by man, meaning they couldn't have gone to a land in the east because every land in the east at that time was already inhabited. All right, so they didn't go to any land where they were being held captive at. That there was no country in the east but what was more or less inhabited by man, and consequently America was the only country at that time known that was not inhabited. So at that time, when they decided to leave to a land where no man dwelt, the only land where no man dwelt was America. You understand? Which is to show you what? That they left to America. Go ahead up.
So like I know I'm a bit late, but you talking about the natives?
Come. Yeah, I'm talking about the Latinos, Native Americans, Hispanics, all the Latinos. So what does that tell you? It tells you that they had to go to America because America was a land that wasn't inhabited. You understand? Now, to back that up more, now we're gonna go into that book of Captain Kataza. All right, that's gonna back up what was just read. All right, just bear with me for a second. All right. All right. So this is, what book are we reading out of? Let me read the book. Even though I already told you the book. All right. This is Issachar, son of Jacob, Unindoctrinated, written by Captain Kataza. A brief look into the history of how the so-called Mexicans are the children of Israel in biblical antiquity. All right. So now let's go back to the page. All right. All right. So we're on page 13. All right. Now this is Bernard de Sahugun. Bernard de Sahugun was one of the very first preachers in New Spain, Mexico. All right, so he was in New Spain, Mexico, one of the very first. He was also a Franciscan Spaniard who spent 60 years amongst the Indians. So he spent 60 years amongst the Indians. You understand? Tons of time to talk to them, to study their culture, to study their language, right? To study their customs. And he was a preacher, meaning he knew the Bible. He read the Bible, right? He had knowledge of the Bible, all right? He acquired a great proficiency in the knowledge of the Aztec language and history. Saguhun, amongst his many other works, was most famous for his 4-volume compilation entitled General History of New Spain. One of the many facts the Franciscan had brought out in his history in support of the Aztecs being one of the lost tribes of Israel, meaning one of the lost tribes of Israel that are all throughout the Bible, right? Was that Montezuma, who was Montezuma? Montezuma was the Aztec king that was the Aztec king that was king at the time when what's that Spaniard's name? I just read his name. Cortez. When Fernan Cortez, the conquistador, came to the Aztec Empire, he was speaking to Montezuma, the king. He was king at that time. All right. In support of Aztecs being one of the lost tribes of Israel, was that Montezuma himself, king of the Aztecs, at the arrival of Hernan Cortez, Spanish conquistador, had related to him the fact that his ancestors came from the east. So Hernan Cortez told Montezuma, the king of the Aztecs, told Hernan Cortez that his ancestors came from the east. Why did he tell them that they came from the east? Because it's matching up to what we just read out of the Apocrypha. The 10 tribes left the eastern countries to come to a land where no man dwelt. And the only land where no man dwelt at that time was America. You understand? So what am I connecting? I'm showing you through history that we are in fact we are in fact Israelites. You're a Mexican. You understand? You're not you're Aztec, right? You are Aztec. You are a native, but you really come from the east. You're really a descendant of the 12 tribes of Israel. You understand? All right. So with that being said, I'm gonna read a little bit more out of this book, backing up that the so-called natives and Latinos are of the 10 tribes of Israel. All right. Now we're gonna go into page 2 into this book right here, the one I brought out in the beginning of the class. All right. We're gonna go to page 2. The following is from J.J. Mombert's History of Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, page 68. Mind you, this book was written in the 1800s. All right, so everything written here is factual. It's not made up. It's not, it's not something that is invalid. It's absolutely valid. All right. The following is from J.J. Mombert's History of Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, page 68. Being an extract from a letter written by William Penn to the Committee of the Free Society of Traders in London, England, 1683. He states of the origin of the North American Indian. And this is what he says. I am ready to believe them of the Jewish race. I mean of the stock of the 10 tribes. And that for the following reasons. First, they were to go to a land not planted or known, which to be sure, Asia and Africa were, if not Europe. Meaning what? What is he saying? He's saying that because he read the Apocrypha, he knows that the Israelites, the 10 tribes, were going to go to a land not known, meaning a land where no man dwelt. And he said, which to be sure, Asia and Africa were what? Occupied. Europe was also occupied. You understand? So what is he pointing out? He's pointing out the same thing that we read out of the Apocrypha. You understand? These oppressors, they did their history. They knew the Bible. They understood that the natives that we were of the 10 tribes of Israel. Right now, let's go to we're gonna go to the next chapter. Reverend James S. Milligan writes from Argyll, New York, May 13th, 1853, to a friend in Allegheny, PA, having in my possession a very curious relic, or facsimile of a relic. So he had an artifact, right? This man, this oppressor, he had an artifact, right, of that ancient nation, the Jews. I take liberty of addressing you in reference to it, in order that I and others may have the benefit of your opinion concerning it. So he's writing a letter to this guy, and he's like, look, I have this relic, I have this artifact, and I want you to give me your opinion on it, right? What do you think about this relic? Because it comes from the Jews, that ancient nation. That to which I refer is the facsimile in block 10 of a silver coin found last summer in Michigan. So this is a silver coin that he had, and it was found in Michigan. About 20 miles from Detroit, 2 feet under the surface of the earth. The coin is about the size of an American half dollar, not so great in circumference, but thicker. On one side is represented a censer with smoking incense, with a Hebrew inscription, Jewish shekel. On the other also is a Hebrew inscription, the Holy Jerusalem, with the representation of an old olive tree. So what is this also telling us? Well, how did this relic, how did this coin from the East that's from the Jews, how did it get to America? You understand? Because once again, we came to this land. You understand? All this is backing up what? All this is backing up the fact that we did come from the East to America. You understand? And this was his friend's response, right? So he wrote back to him in response. Here follows the remark of his friend. The relic is plainly Israelitish. The facsimile represents accurately the silver shekel of Israel, meaning this silver shekel was from Israel. You understand? It was worth 50 cents of our money. Our silver half dollar is nearly a half ounce avoirdupois. The shekel of Israel was known in Persia. It is mentioned in Xenophon's Anabasis. This relic having been discovered in Michigan, 20 miles west of Detroit, 2 feet underground, it must have been left there before the discovery of America by Columbus. You understand? So before, meaning what? Before Columbus got here, we were already here. So that's why when Columbus got here, we were here. The natives were here. You understand? Because we came from the East. We came from the Eastern country. All right? Now we're going to get a little bit more out of this book. One second. All right, so we're gonna read about another more evidence to show that the Native Americans, American Indians, are of the nation of Israel. All right, so this is page 194. In a recent issue of the United Presbyterian was a letter from the Hon John A. Bingham, United States Minister of Japan, expressing the opinion that the American Indians are descendants from the Japanese. The opinion is founded on the marked resemblance of the two races in manners, physique, customs, and complexion language. It is not our purpose to attempt to refute the evidence in favor of the view, but only to state a few facts which have led us to believe that the American Indians are descendants from the native Jews or Israelites. You understand? So somebody's trying to say that that natives come from Japanese people, which is common. You understand? But they're about to show that the natives are from the Jew are from Jewish descent, that they descend from the Jews or from the Israelites, right? We refer to some inscriptions found on certain stones. These stones, at the time we witnessed them, on the 5th of April, 1886, were in possession of Reverend Matthew Miller of Senecaville, Ohio. Reverend Miller was then a member of the OS Presbyterian Church. If he is still living, we presume he is now in the reunited Presbyterian Church. He has been engaged during a part of his time in missionating among the Jews of his country. The first two of these stones to which we refer were found in what is called an Indian mound. What is an Indian mound? Is where an Indian is buried. You understand? That's where the Indian Mound is. 3 miles east of Newark, Ohio. The inscriptions of the first were, "May the Lord have mercy on me. It is good to love the aged." This stone was carved in the shape of a man's head. The writing on the second stone could not be read. It bore the image of 4 human faces. The third stone was found near Newark in a sink which had been a grave. The first inscription on the stone was, "The dew of life is the Almighty on waking those who sleep," similar to an expression found in Isaiah that reads, in Isaiah, in the book of Isaiah. The other inscription on this stone was, "King of Earth." The fourth stone was found in a mound. So the fourth stone is the stone that they found that was buried with this Native American. You understand? So they're about to go into that mound. Not far from Newark, the mound was formed principally of stone, with several small mounds in the base formed of fire clay. Beneath one of these was a vault, and in the vault a coffin containing the skeletons of a human being. Beneath the coffin was a metallic case. So underneath the body of this American Indian was a metallic case. And the stone was found in this case. The stone was oblong, probably 6 inches or a little more in length, and about 1 inch in thickness, and 1.5 or 2 inches in width. The stone was very fine grained and carved very smoothly. On the face of this stone was the image of a man with the name Moses written over the head of the image in Hebrew letters. Some of the commandments were written correctly in a full, while others were written incorrectly and not in full. Now, why were some of the Hebrew words written correctly and incorrectly? They have you can look this up, right? They have this stone today. You can look it up on YouTube, on Google, right? The Newark, Ohio stone, right? And it's a stone, and it has a man on the stone, and it says Moses over the stone in Hebrew, and all around it has the commandments. Now experts have analyzed this stone, and they say that it's an official stone, but they still try to say that it's not official, that is not real, when it is real. They just say that because they don't want people to know that this relic, this evidence was found in the grave of a Native American. And if this relic was found in the grave of a Native American, then that proves more that they are of the 10 tribes of Israel, and that the 10 tribes did come from the Eastern country to the Americas. You understand? On the face of this stone was the image of a man with the name Moses written over the head of the image in Hebrew letters. On the face of this stone was the image of a man with the name Moses written over the head of the image in Hebrew letters. Some of the commandments were written correctly and in full, while others were written incorrectly and not in full. So why were some of them written correctly and some incorrectly? Because slowly we lost some of our culture. You understand? From years and years of being in America and generation after generation, we still kept some of the culture of our people. We still knew the language, but we kind of drifted away from it a little bit. You understand? Go ahead up.
That's it.
Come on. If I could get that real quick, so I could just show it to the people watching. So this is the stone that's being described in the book, right? This is a stone that we just described in the book. So that's Moses, and on top of him it says Mashah, which is Moses in Hebrew, and all around that stone is the 10 Commandments. All right, you can look it up. What is the Newark?
Newark, Newark,
in
stone.
Newark, Ohio stone. All right. While others were written incorrectly and not in full, as though they had been written from memory. You see? So these inscriptions that were written from memory. I mean, the Native American wrote this in memory because he knew some of the language, but some of the language he didn't really know he forgot it over time. You understand? The errors were in the spelling. The mound in which this last stone was found, being mostly of stone, was torn down, and the stone used, we believe, in the building a canal and other public works. On the summit of one of these mounds was a tree. That must have been 100 years in growing. 100 growths were counted on the stump after the tree had been cut down. All these stones or relics were found in connection with the skeletons of Indian bodies. So all of these relics, all of these stones that they found were found with the skeletons of Indians. The skeletons of an Indian may be as distinguished by the shape of the skull alone. So how did they know that these skulls were of Native Americans? Because they look at the skull at the Salaki. How did they know that these skeletons were of Native Americans? Because they get the skull, and you can tell by the skull, you can tell what race somebody was. You understand? So that's that. That's that piece of evidence, right? I want to get a little bit more. What time is it? 8:18. We still got some time, right? One second. So, Lockie, bear with me for 1 minute. All right. So I'm gonna bring out one more page, and this is the first page of the book. All right. This isn't page 1. This is page V. This is the preface. I'll finish reading this, and then I'll go back into the scriptures. Many years ago, the attention of the compiler of the following pages was first called to the subject by hearing a lecture delivered by a highly educated Cherokee Indian on the manners and customs of the various Indian tribes of North America. During the course of his remarks, he stated that when he came to study the Hebrew language, he was astonished to find so much of his own language that was pure Hebrew. So this Cherokee man, he was making a speech, and he's talking about how he was so surprised on how similar his language was to the ancient Hebrew. And after enumerating the various words of his own language that were Hebrew, he found them to exceed 50. So more than 50 words in his own language were exactly the same as Hebrew. And said he, we were taught this by our ancestors, and they received it from their Hebrew ancestors, the 10 tribes. So what? This Cherokee brother, he knew that he came from the nation of Israel. He knew that because the language that he spoke was Hebrew. And who did he receive it from? From his forefathers. You understand? So that's all I'm gonna read out of this book. We're gonna go ahead and get into these scriptures. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get to these scriptures. We're gonna show you the judgment of our oppressor for what he has done to the Native Americans. Right now we are oppressed. Right now we are an oppressed people. We have to suffer living here while people celebrate our demise worldwide. You understand? They celebrate Thanksgiving in gladness. They follow this tradition that they shouldn't be following, and we have to suffer while they celebrate it. Now the oppressor, he knows what happened. He knows the history, and he still celebrates it. And that's why the Lord is going to judge this oppressor, our oppressor. You understand? We're gonna get it out the Bible how the Lord is going to deal with our enemy. All right. So first, let me get first precept. Let me get Revelations 13 and 10. Right, so just go ahead and grab that for me.
Come. Is that Revelations 13 and 10?
Come.
Got it.
All right, go ahead and read that out.
The book of Revelation, chapter 13, verse 10. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity.
He that what?
He that leadeth He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity.
He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. And who led us into captivity? The oppressor. The oppressor led us into captivity. So that because of that, now he has to go into captivity. Keep going.
He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword.
And he that killeth with the sword, he must be killed with the sword. So because he killed us with the sword, now mind you, he killed us innocently for no reason. So he that killeth with the sword, he must be killed with the sword. Keep going.
Here is the patience and the faith of the saints.
Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. Who are the saints? The men in the ISUPK. We are the saints. We are the ones who are serving Christ so that he can come back and destroy our enemy. So that we can put him in slavery. And we are patient. You understand? We're not going out here and killing white people for what they did to us on this day because they came over here and stole our land. No, that's not what we're doing. And that's not what we're going to do. What we're going to do and what we're doing and what we will continue to do is to keep the commandments in the Bible. You understand? Is to keep the commandments inside of the Bible and serve the Most High. That's what we'll continue to do. And that's going to cause our enemy to be put in slavery. Keep reading.
Verse 11. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth.
All right, you could drop that. Now let me get Revelations 10 and 9.
Got it.
Go ahead and read it up.
The book of Revelation, chapter 10, verse 9.
Mm-hmm.
And I went unto the angel and said unto him, Give me the little book. And he said unto me, Take it and eat it up.
He said, give me the little book. What is the little book talking about? It's talking about the Bible. You understand why? Because the Bible is a little book. Meaning no one cares about the Bible. No one really wants to know what the Bible is really saying. So he said, give me the little book. Go ahead. Read after the little book.
And he said unto me, Take it and eat it up, and it shall make thy belly bitter.
He said, go ahead. The angel said, go ahead and get the book. Take it and eat it. Meaning what? Go ahead and read it. Learn it. And it's going to make your belly bitter. Go ahead.
But it shall be in thy mouth sweet as honey.
But in your mouth is going to be sweet as honey. And that's how it is when you come and learn the truth. When you first learn the truth, it sounds good. You understand? It sounds good. I mean, if you serve Christ, you're going to get to the kingdom. You understand? If you serve Christ, you're going to get rewarded for it. But when it goes down, it's bitter. Why? Because now you have to change. Now you have to change who you are. Now you can't celebrate Thanksgiving. And that's bitter. You understand? It's bitter. Oh, now I can't do that. Why? Because my mom is going to call me on Thanksgiving. She's going to call me. My grandma's going to call me. My aunt is going to call me. My cousins are going to call me and tell me to go to Thanksgiving. They want to see my nephews. And I don't want to go through that. And I don't want to go through that. I don't want to go through them looking at me weird, thinking I'm crazy, thinking I'm the crazy one. And that's bitter. The truth is sweet in your mouth to know that you're God's people. But it's bitter when you actually have to do what the Bible says. You understand? And that's the problem with our people. Our people don't want to change. We don't want to let go of something to get something that we want. You understand? We don't want to stop celebrating Thanksgiving, but we want to serve God. That's the problem with our people. We want to serve God. We go to church. We kiss the cross. We pray. But we don't want to do what God says to do. You understand? And that's the problem with our people. Keep going.
And I took the little book out of the angel's hand and ate it up.
And what?
And ate it up.
And this brother right here, he ate up the book. He read the book and he did what the book said to do. Go ahead.
And it was in my mouth, sweet as honey.
Man, and when I was reading this book, it was sweet as honey. And that's what happens when you come into the truth. The truth is sweet. It uplifts you. It's like, man, I'm an Israelite. Damn. And then you hear the truth. You hear the facts. You get the proof. Go ahead.
And as soon as I had eaten it, my belly was bitter.
My belly was what?
My belly was bitter.
He said, my belly was bitter. Because now I have to do things I don't want to do. Go ahead. Which is what? To serve God. To serve God is to go against your own lusts, to go against your own desires. To serve God means you have to change your way, and that way has been your way since birth. You've always believed in Christianity since birth. You've believed in Catholicism since birth. You've eaten pork, shrimp, crab, and lobster since you were born. Some of the best dishes that we believe are shrimp, crab, and lobster in the Black and Hispanic community. You understand? You have ceviche, you have shrimp, you have pork, you have oysters. You understand? We pride in ourselves in these dishes. And now that we come and serve God, it sounds good, but when we have to do when we have to do what's needed to serve God, it's bitter. It's a bitter thing to do because we have to let go of our indoctrination, of the disease that's inside of us, which is sin. You understand? And we have to put away sin, and it's a bitter thing to do, but it must be done. You understand? It must be done. Keep going.
And he said unto me, thou must prophesy again before many peoples and nations and tongues and kings.
And that's what we're gonna have to do. The Black, Hispanic, and American Indian man, you're gonna have to wake up. You're gonna have to get in this book, learn this book, live this book, do what the book says to do. And you're gonna have to prophesy against America. You're gonna have to prophesy and say, don't celebrate Thanksgiving. You're gonna have to teach your people not to celebrate it, why they shouldn't celebrate it. You're gonna have to come against empires, nations. You understand? That's what you do when you work for the Most High. You understand? When you work for America, you don't gain anything. You're not doing anything but destroying yourself, destroying your people. What do I mean when I say you work for America? Meaning you're living their way. You're keeping their holidays. And you understand? You're serving their God. You're serving Islam, Christianity, Catholicism. When that's not going to help our people. You understand? You're good for nothing. So what you want to do is what? You want to come back to the Bible. You want to come back to the Most High. And how do you do that? Don't celebrate Thanksgiving. You understand? You're celebrating the murder of innocent people. You understand? The white people, the oppressors today, they descend from those people who murdered our people. They descend from the people who enslaved Black people. They descend from the people who enslaved American Indian people. They come from their loins. You understand? They come from their sperm. You understand?
God.
So we need to. So what does that mean? Meaning what? We can't celebrate Thanksgiving, man. If we celebrate Thanksgiving, then you can't be mad at George Floyd being murdered. You can't be mad at Breonna Taylor being murdered. You can't be mad at Tamir Rice being murdered. You can't be mad at Vanessa Guillen being murdered. You can't be mad at what's going on with the children at the border. Because that happened when they came here to this land. And that's what you're celebrating when you celebrate Thanksgiving. When you celebrate Thanksgiving, you're celebrating the deaths of the children in the cages. You're celebrating the death of George Floyd. You're celebrating the death of Tamir Rice. You're celebrating the death of Breonna Taylor. You're celebrating the death of Ahmaud Arbery. You understand? You're celebrating his death. If you celebrate Thanksgiving, you hate Ahmaud Arbery. You don't love your brother. You understand? You do all this good talk. You talking like, man, I wish I was there. Man, that's messed up. No. You understand? You're a hypocrite. Because you're eating turkey. You're going to eat turkey, and that's celebrating the death of your brother, Ahmaud Arbery. You understand? So if you really want to serve the Most High, don't celebrate Thanksgiving. Don't celebrate the death of your people. You understand? And that's how you serve the Lord. And guess what? Thanksgiving, a lot of people are going to die on Thanksgiving. Best believe. Get ready to hear on Thanksgiving that people died. Because God hates Thanksgiving. He hates our feast days. He hates the days we celebrate in America. You understand? Now let me get 1 second. Slovakia, bear with me. Let me get Proverbs 28:9.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 28, verse 9. He that turneth away his ear from hearing the law, even his prayer shall be an abomination.
Even his prayers shall be an abomination. The Lord is not going to hear your prayers. The Lord is disgusted at your prayers. Your prayers are an abomination unto the Lord if you what? Read that again from the top.
He that turneth away his ear from hearing the law, even his prayer shall be abomination.
I mean, if you're not keeping the law in the Bible, which is to not celebrate Thanksgiving, don't follow the way of the heathen. You understand? Guess what? The Lord doesn't hear your prayers. The Lord doesn't hear your prayers when you're asking him for help. You understand why? Because you don't want to serve the Most High. And that's the problem. Problem is we don't want to serve the Lord. We want to serve ourselves. You understand? And you're a coward if you serve yourself. Because you're selfish. All you think about is yourself, what you want. You don't want to suffer for your people. You don't want to make a true change. And that's what needs to be taken. And that's what's happening in the ISUPK, man. You understand? And we in ISUPK, we're not celebrating Thanksgiving. The hell with Thanksgiving. You understand? Anybody who celebrates Thanksgiving who's Black, Latino, and American Indian, the Lord is going to deal with you. Now or later. You understand? Now or later, because Thanksgiving is a wicked holiday, is a disgusting holiday. It's a holiday based on murder, rape, robbery. Pull up a little article if you could. If you could just type in the mythology of Thanksgiving. If you could, yeah, the mythology of Thanksgiving. We're gonna go into what is supposedly believed about Thanksgiving, right? The mythology of it. We're gonna show you the mythology, meaning what's believed about it, but it isn't true. Let me know if something pops up.
I got something from the Smithsonian Magazine.
All right.
Okay, this is. I can read like the little summary they got of it right here.
All right. Go ahead and read that.
The mythology of Thanksgiving out of the Smithsonian Magazine. What is a Thanksgiving myth? The myth is that friendly Indians, unidentified by tribe, welcomed the Pilgrims to America and teach them how to. And it ends right there, but it's like it.
No, so okay, just look up
Yeah, because when I click on it, it gives me this long article. Stupid.
It doesn't say anything when you scroll down. You don't see anything.
Yeah, I'm scrolling right now. But... Okay, I got it right here.
Got it. All right, go ahead.
The mythology of Thanksgiving out of the Smithsonian Magazine. The myth is that friendly Indians, unidentified by tribe, welcomed the Pilgrims to America, teach them how to live in this new place, sit down to dinner with them, and then disappear. They hand off America. Slovakia. They hand off America to white people so they can create a great nation dedicated to the liberty, opportunity, and Christianity for the rest of the world to profit.
See that? So that's the myth. The myth is that what? That the Native Americans handed over America peacefully to the Europeans, when that's not true. We just read the truth out of the book that we read earlier, that the Europeans came to this land to steal this land from the American Indians. All they wanted was riches, and they saw the American Indians as their enemies, and they murdered them. That's the truth of Thanksgiving. You understand? That's the truth about it. Now, you decide if you're going to celebrate it or not. You understand? If you celebrate Thanksgiving, you are a sinner, and you don't care about George Floyd. You don't care about Ahmaud Arbery, and you don't care about the other black brothers who will have to suffer at the hands of the oppressor because we are in this captivity. You understand? So just know that you don't care about your people if you celebrate Thanksgiving. If you're Mexican, you don't care about Vanessa Guillen. You understand? You don't care about what happens to your people. You're celebrating the death of your people. You understand? That's what's happening, and you're disgusting. All right. So with that, that's the end of the class. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and type them in now. You got any questions up?
About that book,
Mm-hmm.
why does it only say the 10 tribes of Israel instead of the 12?
Okay, it says the 10 tribes because the 10 tribes, those are the tribes that migrated to the Americas. The rest of the tribes, they were in Israel, like Judah, Benjamin, and Levi.
Okay, so that book is specifically talking about the natives, Mayans, Aztecs.
Yeah, it's speaking about specifically that people. You understand? All right. No sweat. All right, with that, shalom. The water for tuning in, Israel.